I would like to thank the ICO, the chair, for the invitation to be here and the opportunity to talk to you about out-of-home consumption in new coffee consuming markets. There is always a hazard to be the last speaker, and I'm afraid I may be repeating some things you have already heard. On the other hand, I'll probably finish earlier, so that's the advantage. Well, increasing out-of-home consumption in new coffee consuming markets depends on shaping the preferences of a booming middle class, as it was said here. This booming middle class has higher incomes, new aspirations, and a thirst for novelty. But for any novelty, not necessarily coffee. So if we want them to come the coffee way, we have to shape their preferences. Coffee shops are correctly being marketed as a lifestyle, a new lifestyle, a Western habit in many countries. And this meets the demand for modernity. Coffee shops are really an important part of an ongoing process of discovery of local domestic markets in producing countries like Indonesia, India, Vietnam, Mexico, and so many others. On the other hand, the coffee shops are a key driver of consumption, as we heard here repeatedly, in Russia, in Eastern Europe, in China, in Korea, and I could go on and on. Coffee houses play an important role as trendsetters, and as such, they help introduce the habits of coffee drinking that goes then into the homes. They play, as Andrea Ely likes to say, an aspirational role associated with the status, but yet they are affordable. That makes a big difference. The coffee experience in these coffee shops involves indulgence, inspired by a mix of product, ambience, and companionship. This really is all at the heart of the socialization of the habit of coffee drinking. And this creates a strong emotional connection that in due time is transferred to the home. This emotional connection that is created is not easily erased by other products. That's why the role of these coffee shops out-of-home consumption is so important. The most apparent side of out-of-home consumption are the coffee shops, but they're not the only ones, as I'll refer later. And coffee shops are expanding fast in new markets. Starbucks, perhaps one of the most apparent faces of this movement, is investing heavily in Asia-Pacific area, with 500 stores in China, over 200 stores in the Philippines, over 140 stores in Indonesia. We heard 455 stores in Korea. Asia is today its fastest growing market with 3,300 stores. And they have just opened their first store in Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam. And they will start roasting in India soon. The first Starbucks roasting operation in a producing country will be in Asia. And this sends us a strong message. In India, Starbucks is facing well-established competitors like Coffee Day, a nice example, with 1,400 Cafe Coffee Days stores in 200 Indian cities, selling espressos for $1 a cup. Coffee Day, my friends, receives 400,000 guest visits per day in its coffee shops and in the 900 kiosks, the Coffee Day Express, where they sell espressos for 30 cents a cup. Coffee Day, I like it because it's a unique example of investing in new models to target different consumers at different income levels. They have premium cafes with extended menus with many food options. They have price competitive kiosks and neighborhood shops. Just to see the potential of this, we heard here about 12,000 coffee shops in Korea, 9,000 of which owned by small entrepreneurs. Very dynamic, very enthusiastic. Coffee shops around the world can look very different in different countries, in different cultures, as you can see in the slides. But in essence, the principle, the idea, they are quite the same inside. Good product, good coffee, ambiance, socializing. All that creates this emotional connection with coffee. But out-of-home consumption is not restricted to coffee shops, as Judy mentioned. We shouldn't think that out-of-home ends at coffee shops. Coffee is increasingly drunk at offices in new coffee markets. Office coffee services are, I would say, the hidden, the less glamorous face of coffee consumption in these markets. The numbers move, but we don't see them as much. Roast and ground and soluble coffee are ubiquitous. And machines expand fast too, both for self-preparation and vending machines that sell espresso, cappuccino, and other coffee beverages. Coffee kiosks are sprouting everywhere. Parking lots, office building lobbies, street corners, you mentioned it. For many traditional tea drinkers in China and in India, the office offers the first coffee experience. They drink coffee for the first time in their lives. Very much the role that university has for youngsters in other countries. Since you're not given coffee at home, you have your first coffee when you have to stay awake and overnight, and you start drinking coffee. And from office to coffee shop is a natural evolution. It's really a pity that quality of coffee at offices is often overlooked, given its important role in the introduction of the habit. If glamour, ambience, and socialization have their role, the search for convenience is also gaining force in new markets. It may be too early in some of these markets for single serve because of the price, for single serve machines that have an initial cost. But single serve solutions are there. How? Via coffee stations. Coffee on the go, in gas stations, convenience stores, traditional food outlets with innovative products that are practical, quick to prepare and to consume. For example, on your slide, Oxxo is the largest chain of convenience stores in Mexico. Over 10,000 stores distributed all over the country. And all stores have a coffee station that's very popular with consumers. In more developed, new consuming markets, more affordable options, quick service restaurants, as it was mentioned here, are already developing to reach consumers with lower incomes. Coffee Day in India, I repeat, offers lower cost outlets, the Coffee Day Express, fresh and ground, located in lower income neighborhoods, where it sells coffee by the pound, besides coffee by the cup. Mac Café is another more affordable option today available in many emerging markets. The idea really is to make these brands to trickle down and reach more consumers. Sorry. Last but not least, there is an informal sector component to out-of-home consumption, and this is often forgotten. Especially in coffee-producing countries. Her coffee drinking, as it was mentioned here, is already a habit, and it's now moving out of the home. Because even though in many producing countries it is a habit, it's a habit to be consumed at home. This informal sector is very strong in big cities where workers have to commute long hours to reach the workplace, and they now have breakfast where they arrive, and they drink coffee over there. There are, for example, warongs in Indonesia, as well as mobile coffee shops in bicycles. There are tinteros in Colombia, in the center picture. As Marcela told us, Colombians call their cup of coffee tinto. So a tintero is a man who sells coffee on the street. There are breakfast booths in Sao Paulo that sell coffee and cakes. There are backpack coffee vendors in El Salvador, Central America, and so on, so forth. There are key trends in emerging markets of producing countries that are different from those in non-coffee producing emerging markets. As Rob did this difference, I like to do it too, because the process, even coffee shops, are different in producing countries that are emerging markets and non-producing countries. What we have is raw materials are easily available. Coffee is easily available in producing countries, where coffee has always been drunk, more or less intensively. The challenge in many producing countries is to move coffee out of the routine. I wake up, wash my face, brush my teeth, and take a cup of coffee. I don't know the brand, the quality, or anything. And moving it out of home helps us change it. And because coffee is readily available in producing countries, local chains are more important in this case. You look at Brazil, you look at Indonesia, Vietnam, Kenya, India, and there is stronger competition from the local coffee chains. In producing countries, there are also country-specific solutions. Corner stores that serve coffee in Colombia. The express station and the padaria, the bakeries in Brazil. The informal sector everywhere. But foreign chains are also present and playing their role in making the sector more fashionable, moving up the quality bar in these countries. It should be clear that in emerging markets of producing countries, coffee consumption is moving from the home to out of home. In Brazil, that maybe I should not consider an emerging market anymore, out-of-home consumption today accounts for 30% of total consumption. And it grows faster in the street, out of home, than in the homes. The direction is the other way around in non-producing emerging markets. Consumption is being created often out of home, and we have to think how to move this consumption into the homes. That is the challenge, really. We have primarily modern outlets and solutions that are foreign-inspired, but locally adapted. There are few artisanal solutions. In summary, processes may be different, but out-of-home consumption is today a critical factor in the growth of coffee consumption in emerging markets. Capturing consumption that's moving out of home in producing countries, or catalyzing consumption that will eventually move into the homes in non-producing countries. Thank you very much for your attention.